We are here at SecT interviewing the speakers, and now we have Eric with us, who just came off stage. You were talking about exploiting crypto wallets.
Yeah.
Yeah. For fun and no, maybe not
Sometimes
profit.
We have customers.
Yeah, I understand. And so what does your business model look like? Do you take a percentage or?
Yeah, generally. So Unciphered, we're a vulnerability research company.
Yeah.
And we're very open about that. As I said on stage, we're like white hat hackers because not a lot of people have looked at these code bases, hardware bases, and it's usually very novel and usually very time and talent and resource intensive. Yeah. So it's really hard to put a price on that. Like as an example, we have a focused ion beam and a scanning electron microscope as some pieces of equipment in our electronics lab. And generally, as I learned from friends in the industry, when I did a little bit of it, that they don't turn on their equipment for less than $100,000. Because the equipment's two pieces of that is about $2 million. Yeah. So grandma can't afford that. No. So we work on percentages, generally anywhere from we start at 20, can go lower or higher. And if it's really easy, we're like, we drop it.
Yeah. But if you go for percentages, how do you know how much is in a hardware wallet before you extract it?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
It's a very good question. It's a question we get asked a lot. So we like to say we're the world's first institutional cryptocurrency recovery company because we have a whole know your customer process. We have a system that checks IDs and it's that person. We also, when we have them come in, we require the public key. So the public key in the blockchain will, let you know how much that is, and that also is part of our anti-money laundering and know your wallet process, which we get a score saying like how close to dirty it is or not. So we know exactly how much is on there, and if they can't provide that because some incident happened, wiped it or lost access to a drive, well, the amount is on the blockchain. So if we do a whole basically Sherlock investigation, or like, when did you get it? Did you mine it? Did you buy it? And when did you, do you have an email of a date of so we narrow it down to that one until we get it, and then we can score it. So we don't take a client, with rare exception, where the managers have to sign off on that because we know exactly who it is and we know it's, and so, but practically every case we get the public key, and if we don't work with the person. Okay. And if we don't, then we don't know.
And limit on my knowledge here, but the hardware wallet, before you start, you already know which private keys will be on there, or are there some technologies where the wallet is locked down, and when you unlock it, it could be like you would know that you're looking for unlocking a certain public key, but it turns out, why is there 10 private keys on this wallet?
It's another good question. We get that a lot. And so before Unciphered, I was cracking software wallets on the side, just like a little bit here and there. Because I'm in San Francisco, where there's the crypto mansion. If you don't know that, it's a Googleable thing. But a lot of people were there early in the days, in the early 2010s, creating a lot of software. But also people knew me because I lived there, and I was like their security guy. So that's where I was just doing it on the side, outside of RiffRecon. But to answer your hardware question, it really, we don't have that problem because our intake process covers that based on what I learned in the past when I wasn't doing that. So I brought that story up because all the learning lessons of before the company got started, I learned how to weed that out and also stop making those mistakes. A lot of people are saying it's hard, impossible to do. It's just like, well, no, it's not. You just got to be rigorous and actually run it professionally. If you don't do that, you're going to get in trouble. And people are doing that and getting in trouble. So we made sure we're not going to get in trouble. So, and no, we have, but here's the thing. We have found wallets with extra coins in there they didn't know or forgot. Yeah. So we'll often find in Trezors, there's hidden wallets. So if you provide a password, it'll just open a wallet. It could be empty, or one with a little amount of money for duress, like, oh, I only have this much and here's the key, and it opens it and they won't see that there's another wallet that's bigger. And so we have code that will iterate through and brute force, at least in Trezor's passphrase, and we've gotten hits where we found another $30,000 that the person forgot about, and it was theirs. But that's because of the extended keys allow for that. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah.
There's times where we will find more, but it's generally the customers already
But basically the human side and the administrative process weeds out the weird customers.
We have a lot of rejections.
Yeah.
A lot of rejections. Rejections that other people should easily find, but they don't do the work. So we're just like, we can't work with those people. It's just so much liability. Like we had.
So someone turns up. I don't know I don't know how to get into this wallet. And how did you find it?
It's not helpful for us to argue.
No.
We just say it's too hard to work on.
Yeah.
And if someone hears that, it may actually. It's very often the case. Well, every case is always free. The scope. We will always look at everything, and we can do it very well. And maybe not today also, and sometimes in the future we can crack it. So maybe because we had a wallet sitting for 8 months and then we looked at it again and then we opened it. Yeah.
And these wallets, I think you mentioned that they're not like at FIPS levels or...
No, none of them are. None of them. I mean, people use iron keys, but they get an iron key. And if they do, there's a famous case where someone has 7,000 Bitcoin locked up and 2 password attempts left. We'd love to chat with them because we built a roadmap to attack it. But that is a FIPS device, and it is a very difficult one. But we have some interesting developments. So if anyone wants to put us in front of Stefan, who has 7,000 Bitcoin, we'd love to have a chat.
Cool.
Yeah. So when you talk about the secure crypto processes, there's a couple of common criteria profiles for how to make. But those chips are not usually in these devices, or so it's basically like an just an ordinary microprocessor in a lot of these, or
well, there's also, as you know, like when they say secure element, there's different things that can air quote make it a secure element. Like sometimes you have security meshes, and if you breach the security mesh when it powers on, it realizes that the mesh has been damaged, wipe memory. So that's why we have very invasive methods with the focused ion beam is a tool for edits, and so we can, if we know that chip, we get like 100 of them, and then build a methodology, and then we're like, okay, now we go to target, and that may have like $10 million on it. You don't want to make one mistake on that. So we make sure, like we have a diamond lapidary machine that as I said, people use nitric acid with their finger and have scars, but we do a micron at a time and are very careful.
Cool.
So, and we won't take the work unless we know we can do it.
I'd love to visit that lab. I know.
Sorry, no tours. Not right now. I mean, we may have a demo lab in the future, but right now, there's security concerns. But and if you go to Google and type Bitcoin kidnapping GitHub, there's a whole repo that has every published known ransom kidnap something for that, and it's a real thing.
Yeah. But let's say now, let's imagine there is a hardware wallet. It's named Super Secure X.
Sure.
Is our new name of this one here. Mm-hmm. And tomorrow you get a customer who says, I have money in this, and I can't get it out. And this is the first time you have this device. I guess the first part of the process would be buying a couple of those and compare them to known reference designs you have cracked in before.
Yep.
And if it's completely new, let's say there's some processor or something here
we haven't seen yet. There's a lot we haven't seen. There's just so much.
So what's the next approach? I mean, do you get 15 of those and start poking around, or like a little bit of approach to a new device? Yeah.
So we have a variety of non-invasive tools, but depending on the node process, is it like a 90 nanometer, 20 nanometer? It depends. Some chips are much more sophisticated, so you can't. Like we just got a nano CT machine, but that won't show you the gates. So generally, if it's a new chip and we read the documentation first that's public, because a lot of it's all NDA'd for a lot of like Atmel 98 SCs had very NDA documentation you couldn't get easily unless you were like a partner vendor and blah blah blah. That people have leaked stuff like that, but new chips come out and you may not have that, like Infineon or other chips out there that are they spend a lot of time and money and they're put into military systems and other things that you really care. And so we'll buy, like 15, 20, 100, depending, and then we delayer them, build a workup, And so we know exactly what it looks like, but those chips are gone. Those are obliterated.
Yeah.
And so eventually we slowly work through that process, and we're like, oh, okay, where's, how's the power on? Where's the keying? Does it have glitch protection or detection? Basically, what are the security countermeasures in there?
Yeah.
And then we're like, then we build a step around that or not. And then we go, it could be glitching. It could be, maybe we can just dissolve the packaging and realize there's a quick trick. It just depends. Or sometimes it's super invasive and dangerous. And it may take, a week or 2 or 3 once we get the methodology. And the methodology may be that we slowly dissolve the epoxy off the device, which we've come up with a custom chemical solution for epoxies that's very dangerous, but it actually cleanly pulls the epoxies off, and we get the board, and then we plug in, we take the NAND off, mirror it. It just depends on how it's set up, and again, it's implementation specific, but so starting with we'll buy 20 or 30 or 40 of those things, and then just slowly build that up.
Cool. I was thinking about one problem that you touched on in your talk, and that was, crypto is purposely built hard to crack today, but give it a couple of years, and crypto becomes weaker and weaker and weaker, and I guess that will become a huge problem in protecting your crypto wallets. So. What would your take be on that? Like, if you really wanted to have you're secure, is it moving towards new technology all the time and moving your money, or should you stick with some other method?
So I think you're touching on the point of the quote, on a long enough time horizon, every crypto wallet becomes vulnerable, from Chris Weisapol, or Zopol, he keeps correcting me. So as we've seen in our industries that, sometimes you see everyone using the same key, or they, didn't use a large enough entropy pool, and the key was very weak, and you can return state.
Yeah, and those are implementation faults.
But we're seeing those at larger scale right now in crypto wallets. So everyone uses a main project and they fork it and they say, this is my new super secure, insert flashy name and logo, not a rug pull ICO or not a scam wallet. But if you go to Android or iOS, there's a lot of scam wallets that will just pretend to be others and yank your money. We've seen that, but we're pretty astonished at the volume and growing volume of wallets that either the main wallet implementation that people forked, generated keys correctly. So heat death of the universe, key attempts. But we're seeing more often than not in every project some issue where the key space is dramatically reduced. And so in some cases we're able to generate key pairs and with real money. And so going forward, we've found, as in my talk, with Ethereum wallet, it was in 2017, if we had found the flaw at the time, knew where to look, we may have been able to see the 15,000 Ethereum in the wallets live. They've moved off, as I said in the talk, but we have seen already more of these already that are currently loaded at various sums. And I think more people are going to know to look for them. And we're really ahead of the curve right now. And so we're putting up some concept called responsible rescue.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's where your responsible rescue comes in.
Yeah.
And you want to be able to move that money in a responsible way. And
it's I think for your listeners, viewers, so people know responsible disclosure, coordinated disclosure. We know that very well. But the problem is you can go patch the software, but the keys are still minted.
Yes.
And if you don't move that money, they're still vulnerable. And so we're seeing much larger than the 1,000 and change wallets we saw. And we're going through this process and realizing we're at a really big blocker right now. Because if we disclose to the major vendors, they'll fix it. But if anyone knows, then you're going to see the Solana and Nomad attacks and other ones, $200 million go missing all of a sudden. And we don't want to harm innocent people. And if we move the wallets that we find, or anyone else does, it's a felony in the U.S. And so we don't have a solution yet. We are starting to talk with lawmakers in D.C. to say, how can we do this? This is north of 100 million here, or this or that, or some large number. And some are tinier, but there's a lot of innocent people that don't know that their money's about to be stolen or could be stolen.
Right.
So we're at the very beginning of this topic.
But since
you could, for example, have the FBI recover a wallet address, and then all vulnerable wallets are automatically transferred there, and then you need to prove that you were the owner to the FBI to get them back, or
That's one idea that people have been passing around in the office and people we're talking with. Maybe not the FBI; those are generally for criminal cases, and they do need support for clearly criminal cases.
Yeah.
But we're now, who do you talk to, and how does this work for? You have maybe like 2 bad actors in that vendor class, and then you have like 10,000 not bad.
But the problem is, I mean, if
This is good debate.
Yeah,
this is great debate.
but I mean,
We don't have the answer
The
yet.
problem there.
And what if it's also wait? Here's one more.
Yeah.
What if you're Swedish? What if you're Nigerian?
I was going to say that. Let's say there's
We don't know.
this Russian guy who has legitimately earned his bitcoins or Ethereum
Turns
or
out
whatever.
there's really good people in Russia.
Yeah.
Actually, the vast majority, I think, are. I have a lot of friends there.
I'm sure there are. And anyway,
There are
let's not
objectively
get political, but
Yeah,
let's
no,
say,
I'm not.
okay, this guy in Iran, and I'm pretty sure he wouldn't or she wouldn't like that the Securities and Exchange Commission in the U.S.
Correct.
seize their money and
Yeah.
they have to prove it's theirs.
This is you're nailing it on the head because it's all decentralized, or a lot of the systems are decentralized. There's a lot of misnomers about how some are constructed, and if you have a MetaMask, it's not centralized. Like you're going through the Infura consensus API, and they see every transaction. And OpenSea can seize your NFT, so you're not writing to the blockchain directly for those. But correct. This is why I put my email out there for say, contact me. We have a lot of people discussing this. We need to discuss it and figure this out. Because as I said, Bob Gorley at OODA Loop has a growing Airtable of thefts and heists and hacks and bad coding errors. Like you saw one recently that lost $37 million because of a actual coding error in the smart contract. So it's a brave new world. This didn't exist at all in history before. And so it'd be interesting to see in the next year, 2 or 3 or 4, where this is going to go.
So basically, what crypto brings here is decentralization, so you don't necessarily know who to talk to, and you also do vulnerabilities on a decentralized thing.
Yeah.
So that's completely different from all scenarios we had before, because there's always been a trusted warden bank or something, which has been like the manager or something.
So I know we're not supposed to do shameless plugs, but I'm guessing that you have looked at all kinds of devices. Are there any like hardware wallets that you would recommend? Or don't you want to say that?
That's a loaded question. It's conflict. No. I mean, honestly, I would not look at any of the crypto hardware devices until they get FIPS certified or a high EAL number. I think Ledger has an EAL, but no one has a FIPS 140 level 4 level 3.
Yeah.
Like, get an iron key. It's clear. Someone out there has 7,000 Bitcoin looking for them. Stefan, let's chat. That's my plug. But he has it on an iron key with 2 password attempts left. And that is very likely, like someone could screw up and wipe out $300 million or whatever the value is today. So if you want something secure and like you want to make darn sure no one can get into it, or without a extremely well financed and talent resourced group, which is what we're bringing to the table, not individual hodgepodge. Like we've professionalized all of this, and so it's hard to say. I would look at it this. Are you storing $50,000 at home under the mattress or $10 million? Because a $70 Trezor 1 is not going to cut it when you go to a major bank when they have 1,000 security engineers. Do you think you're going to do better? So I cannot recommend any. I can't say, I mean, they're useful in many ways. I mean, for small amounts, you mean obviously get a steel plate, and they sell the kits on Amazon where you can put your key down, put it in a safety deposit box.
I'm just a little bit curious.
I'm not saying they're bad. I mean, it just... because I worked with a lot of people in various levels of income and like some very large amounts of commas at the end of theirs, and working with them on estate planning.
Yeah, well, but then just I've never even owned one single crypto of any currency. But I'm just depending, like, if you would want a hardware wallet, I mean, the big step would be to go to a certified crypto processor.
Yeah.
But just
They're starting to do that because they have so much. They're making so much money. These vendors now. Some are making custom chips, and some are actually. I mean, there's now like we have lost track of how many different crypto hardware tokens there are period out there. So like some are actually doing them, but like people haven't come in, so we just don't have the bandwidth at the time. But if you want to really secure a vast amount, first is like sure, get a FIPS 144 level 3 device, get them on Amazon, load it. But be aware that you may lose all of it very easily. Other ones are easier, but then also it's not just it's not just that. It's where you store it. What is it? A safety deposit box, or is it?
That's the problem. How to not lose your hardware device?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you can actually split. You can copy the keys in multiple devices. So like maybe you have 5 iron keys, so you have another chance later.
Shared secret.
Sure. There's different in the multi-sig, but yeah.
But the other thing I'm thinking of.
I'm not saying don't buy the less. They are less secure devices.
Yeah.
But what's your threat model? Are you storing $50,000, $100,000? Great. If you're storing like, I'll ask this question for the audience. What do you do when you have €1,000 in cash? Where do you put it?
Yeah.
Where do you put it?
But let's say,
in my wallet.
Yeah, it fits. The €500 notes they still have. No, it goes to the bank, but like so you can have bank level security at your house. So just consider that. It's not that they're bad. It's just consider the context.
But there's none of these devices that do like super insanely complex key generation schemes, so that attacks without knowing the key would, basically rely on a crypto proof that it would be super expensive to do the attack, even if you can cheat or whatever.
Sure. Yeah. Sorry. What is the question? Sorry.
No. I'm just wondering. With the devices aren't built so that someone with a good hardware understanding, you still would have like a cryptographic protection against bypasses.
That's why I say go with an iron key.
Yeah.
They're very durable. They're designed for that. You have they had cryptographers who properly implemented their keying system. It's very much like a heat death of the universe problem there. If you don't have that passphrase, even if as we're looking at it, even if let's say on our, we have a process where we can mirror the NAND, even though that's encrypted before it gets there in some of the models, we still need the crypt off the chip. And even then, if we can pull it off, which means we've defeated the counter, and we can parallelize that. Well, how big is the passphrase for that? And it's AES, like CBC or XTS or something else. That's hard.
Yep.
And so that's what I'm saying. That's hard. You can go get one of those. The other one's not so much at the moment.
Okay, so then basically iron key is a recommendation.
It's a great one. Apricorns are great too with the keypad. But yeah, or you can why don't you just TrueCrypt or encrypt it file? Why don't you? Here's the thing: USB sticks are great. Just properly encrypt the file, and then anyone can have. You can put it on the internet, and again, as long as you trust the software encryption, then the hardware. I think it's useful. I think there's a vast majority of them are really gimmicky. Some vendors are really trying.
Yeah.
So it's also a matter of what's more convenient for the user at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think that's the trade-off. I mean, you're looking at selling these devices to people who don't want to mess with software cryptography and do things like that.
Yeah.
They feel this this little device that they authenticate to it does all that black magic for them. And so I think there's a market niche there that needs to be satisfied.
I mean, when we looked in market research over the last year, I put together with my team. We looked at and based on here's a question for both of you. This is a really hard question. Have you ever lost a password before?
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Do you have parents who have lost passwords?
Oh yes.
But
I can usually get around those.
Usually.
Yeah.
Usually, but then
I actually have a good story around that, and that's I think I had quite high workload and other things, and I had my phone set to implode on 10 choices, and then I kind of knew the password, but then I got I woke up and something like my brain was not in a good state.
They have psychics for this in the U.S. They have a lot of OG crypto people who have hired psychics, I found out,
Yeah.
and hypnotists, and
Well,
varying quality.
But I was kind of sure about roughly what my password was, but the phone ended up imploding.
Oh no.
Yeah.
And
So
then,
you gotta-
there was a lot of things which didn't have any backups on that one.
Yeah.
But no crypto.
Yeah, well, we also have a lab for water damaged phones. If the phone literally fell off the boat, we've actually had this come in,
Yeah.
and we're like, fell off the boat, but no, really,
Fell in the toilet. Right?
legitimately, we can actually check they owned the phone and everything, and yeah, we don't start the phone, we can pull the chips, socket them, dump memory, work through that. But again, there are things where it's impossible, and we have cases where like, we're sorry. We have exhausted this well beyond I think anyone else's standard. In other, if you go to any other firm, do it. But I think we did a really good job on this one.
Cool.
Oh, sorry. Back to the password. Yeah. So I didn't go with the numbers. So we looked at the market and we published on in a press release. But depending on the month, we said there's probably about $300 billion of missing crypto at that time in Bitcoin and Ethereum, and that's just in January. Now, obviously, it went down to 100 billion, but that's still
a lot of money.
A lot of money out there that needs to be put back into the system if people want to use it.
Yeah. Cool. I think we can sit here and talk about this, all night, but we need to let you go and enjoy the rest of the conference. So thank you, Eric, for taking the time to talk to us.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So if anyone has any questions or wants to talk to us about research on Cypher.com, hit us up. Customers or researchers. If you got new exploits or new ideas, there's people that are customers that we don't have stuff for yet. So please contact us and let's see if we can help some people.
Cool. Thanks.
Perfect.
You're very welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.